to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development, broadcast from Hollywood-Radio Studios, powered by the Island City Media Group. Today, we are featuring an amazing brother of mine, Kyle Pimenta, who lives here in Elk Grove, who his medical profession and stuff he will share. He's just an amazing heart, and he has a great heart for people. But even more so, he has a great challenge before him. In this one, we recorded today, which was August 10th. It's a Wednesday at 1 p.m. He shared, he's on his 221st day running consecutively an average of 4 miles plus. He's going to share that story along with his story coming from South Africa here to the States and finding his way. Now he is a medical researcher for UC Davis Medical Center here at the campus here in Sacramento. And then he is a big-time obstacle course racer. He'll share all of that here on the Coach V Show. And now, thank you for tuning in. Always, I really appreciate you tuning in to this episode of the Coach V Show. And we will see you and now next week. And thank you for joining in this week. And now a word from our sponsor.
Here come the Olympic champions again and stepping
through. Welcome to the Coach V Show, your Hollywood radio show for personal development with expert insights and interviews to help you, me, and we work to be our best and live our best life, offering for your considerations, both in my insights and then also the featured guests that we have, these life lessons, success frameworks, and behavioral models that if you should find value in them, that you subscribe and deploy it all over your life, leadership, and business here on Island City, where the beach meets the streets, on the Coach V Show, where iron sharpens iron, together we rise. Today, I have a special brother who is on the show, who does so much community work with me. His name is Brother Kyle Pimenta. And Kyle was born in South Africa in 1982. And he moved to California with his family in 1995. He graduated from the UC Davis, shout out Aggies, in 2005 with degrees in biochemistry and molecular biology and philosophy. It was there that he met his wife, Dr. Lannie Duong. Shout out, Doctor. Good to have you, and good to have your husband on here. And shout out to you, another UC Davis Aggie. They married in 2010 and settled here in the EGZ in Elk Grove, California, where they are raising their two lovely daughters born in 2013 and 15. Kyle has been involved in clinical research since 2002. His early career centered around research related to hepatitis C, diabetes, and HIV/AIDS. He is currently a senior clinical research coordinator in the pediatric emergency department at the UC Davis Health. His team is part of the Pediatric Emergency Care Applied Research Network, which is funded by the federal government to conduct high-quality, high-impact, multi-institutional research related to prevention and management of acute injuries and illnesses in children. In his spare time, Kyle is an obstacle course racing enthusiast. He has completed almost 100 OCR events, and his highlight races are the 2018 Spartan 24-hour ultra marathon, as well as he has been on the 2019 obstacle course racing world championships, also in Vermont, in which case I watch all of these on Facebook through what he's doing, and I live vicariously through him. And then 2019 World Toughest Mudder in Nevada. He is currently on track to run an average, and this is why I invited him to be on the show. I love this guy. His professional insights is going to bring some value to the show, but the level of consistency too, run an average of 4 miles every day in 2022 while preparing for a Spartan 24-hour Ultra Worlds in Tahoe. So I am so excited to have Brother Kyle Pimenta on the show. Brother Kyle, welcome to the Coach V Show.
Thanks for having me, Coach V.
Man, thank you so much, Kyle. Kyle, let's just start. South Africa coming here to the States. Let's start there. Tell us your genesis point, being born in South Africa, your siblings, your mom and dad. Introduce us to who your mom and dad is and are, and then why come to the United States. Let's start there, please, Brother Kyle.
All right. Yeah. So I was born in Durban in South Africa, which is a coastal city, a lot like San Diego. So very relaxed vibe. I love my country. I miss it so much. I've been back once in 2011 since I came over. We came over because my dad was a contracting computer programmer and he wanted some experience in the U.S. And my mom said, "Okay, 1 year." Well, it's been a little bit longer than 1 year, and we settled down here. Built a life out here. My mom and dad were both born in South Africa. My mom's parents were English Dutch descent. My dad Portuguese German. They met there. I have two sisters as well, an older sister and a younger sister. So I'm the middle child.
Nice. So I met you on the soccer field and found out you were from South Africa. And so tell us, what are some of the life lessons for folks out there that might be struggling, that came from another country? I came from another country. And then just dealing with identity and trying to find your way in here in the States. Talk about that, and what are the life lessons that you thought are valuable that we can all grow from?
Yeah, coming over from another country was a process. We came over with 9 suitcases, and the rest of our stuff was left in storage in South Africa. So it was a brand new start. Trying to build that credit line and all that kind of stuff. No car for a couple of years. So it was a lot of struggle. But I very much believe that struggle and challenges and obstacles, which is why I love obstacle racing as well, is what builds character. So going through that stuff while it's hard as you're going through it, that's sort of the necessary ingredients to make you into a person of integrity and character. If you are open to growing and building yourself up from that. So,
yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. And Coach V always says it: life is struggle, struggle is life, misery is optional. And that's really the struggle that forges either our will and desire to move forward and grow, or stay where we're at and choose a comfort zone. In that, talk about high school. Where did you go to high school before UC Davis, and what are the challenges as a foreigner, just navigating bullying, not being quite, American because you're not, and trying to just navigate all that relationships. Talk about life lessons from high school, Kyle, and where did you go?
Right. So schooling was another one of those challenges because, school. I basically transitioned into high school coming over here.
Right.
I'd gone through. We moved schools a lot growing up. So I think over the course of first grade to high school, I went through 10 or 11 different schools. So I was kind of used to navigating the change, which I think is sort of a blessing, right? At the same time, coming over from a totally different culture, where my school experience was very structured and organized and disciplined, and trying to fit into a public school here in Sacramento was sort of a shock.
Yeah.
And so I lasted 1 day in a public high school, and I was like, I can't even focus. And so we sort of went the route of private school, a little bit of homeschooling for a bit. But I went into a private school, which was very much the same system of a private school I was in South Africa. And so that part allowed me to at least have some familiarity with what I'd experienced before, and then navigate the rest of the change in isolation, or not isolation, but I sort of had at least a basis on which to build.
Yeah. One day, Kyle, you lasted one day in public school?
One day is all I could take.
And what city and what high school was that?
It was Sacramento and Natomas High.
Natomas High. Shout out Natomas. The shortest attendee in the history of Natomas High School. Pomenta. And then talk about what about, like, for me, it was really challenging because one, I wasn't very eager to, take SATs back. Now SATs are a little bit different now, but back then, take the SAT, have a plan for college, have a goal for going. How did you transition into now college preparatory classes, making sure that you have the right requirements to qualify, and then also, go and apply for colleges as a foreigner? How was that struggle? And talk about some of the life lessons you learned there.
Yeah, I was always very academically focused ever since I was a kid. So, always gave my best and got good grades and all of that. Coming to sort of a sense of who I wanted to be was it was a little bit of a circuitous path. In high school, I was about getting ready to graduate, and I was like, I don't really know what I want to do.
Yeah.
I fiddled around with sort of sketches. Do I want to be an architect? I don't know. So my parents kind of gave me this aptitude test to sort of help me. It was sort of one of those, you take a test and it points you to what professions you might be interested in. Sort of, I settled on pediatrics. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, I'm going to be a pediatrician. And so for the next 10 years of my college career, I sort of focused on that route. Eventually came to the conclusion that that wasn't what I wanted to do. But, that's part of life. Sometimes you make a choice and you go one way, and then you come to a realization that maybe that's not quite the fit for you, and just to be flexible and be willing to shift focus as opportunities arise and so forth.
Oh, that's awesome. So you met Lannie there at UC Davis, and then talk about that, because you two are quite a dynamic group. She is really an executive leader. She has very strong opinions, right? She's not shy. We kicked it before. We love her, right? And then so there's this notion of getting married, and then there's the reality of being married. Come on, Kyle, right? So talk about navigating that, and for all of us, some of the life lessons it is that you would share about finding someone you wanted to spend the rest of your life with, and then how integral, because I always talk to high school kids and college kids when I get a chance to get in front of them and speak, is that, and the number one person in my adult life that has impacted my life in general, in life, leadership, business, everything, is who I chose as a spouse. I mean, that is a huge choice above what school you go to, what you major in, what career choice, all of that. I really do believe and have experienced that the spouse is a major factor in our overall well-being, our success, as well as our ability to really experience life to the full. Come on, Kyle. Talk about that. Marriage, meeting Lannie at Davis, all of that.
Yeah. So we were sort of elected to a co-leadership position when we were in a pre-med group at UC Davis.
Okay.
And we met to discuss the club and basically talked about ourselves. And from that moment on, I was like, oh man, I mean, I wasn't looking for anyone. I had one short relationship before that. And I was like, I don't really need this right now. I need to focus on school. And it sort of just happened for me. And I was like, I know that this is the person that I want to marry. Like, I know it's too soon,
and how did she react to that? How did she react to that?
I mean, obviously, I didn't tell her that right away because
right. You got game. I see you, Kyle. That's some game right there. So talk us through it.
Yeah. So we were together for 5 years before we decided to get married. Give it a good amount of time, but yeah, I totally agree. Like, she is the person that I trust the most in life, to share everything with, and supports me, and hopefully I try to be a support to her. And it's just, I don't talk a lot. you know me. I'm a quiet guy. I'm reserved, and part of that was like my cultural background and my upbringing. I very much like to keep to myself, and having that one person to be able to share everything with, is just, I mean, there's nothing that compares to that. So she is a doctor of pharmacy, and does clinical pharmacy work. And also on the side, does a lot of advocacy and volunteering and helping refugees and all that kind of things. So that, like, I'm super proud of her for all of the work that she does, and how much she gives to the world. And also to our daughters. Like, she's an amazing mom. We have two little girls, and I just love where I ended with that.
Oh, me too. Because, I mean, there's one thing to have a beautiful, like, because my wife is beautiful and gorgeous, right? All of that. Mm-hmm. But there has to be something to where you need to see that same person could be yours and together with you in partnership for the rest of your life, but also help grow, nurture you together as a couple, and then be a mother for your children, right? I mean, that's hard to find. I mean, obviously, with the divorce rates, they're still fairly high. But I mean, what you bring up in terms of being an amazing mom, I think that's a phenomenal thing that you and Lannie have. And Martha and I share, that same experience of trying to be that for one another. So talk about in Davis. Did you do anything? Because I met you on the soccer field, and I was like, this dude's super athletic. You can run, you could dribble the soccer ball. And obviously, I'm not a soccer player. I went out there for cardio, and everybody, you could tell that. But, like, where did you start to spark this Spartan and ultra comp? I mean, just not like run 26.2. I mean, you're running 100-mile marathons and all that. Did any of that start in your childhood, Davis days, high school? Talk about that.
Well, back in elementary school, first grade, I really started playing soccer. Elementary school, I was, track and field and soccer. And it was soccer as much as I could get, like every break, after school, before school. I just love soccer. And I always kind of said, soccer is life kind of deal. Like, it's everything to me. And I don't know, so when I came to the States, I went to a small school, right? The private school. So I didn't really have a team. We had a small basketball team, but I didn't have any soccer or any running much. So for a few years, I didn't do anything. When I went to Davis, I signed up for all the soccer classes and all the intramurals I could. And then 2011, I think it was, I saw this thing for a Warrior Dash, which is another obstacle course race back in the day. It's since folded, but getting out there, it was just so much fun. Just like getting out in the mud and the dirt and grit and climbing over obstacles and all that kind of stuff was just so much fun. It reminded me kind of my childhood growing up, being in South Africa and just playing out in mud and whatnot. So I think there was kind of that little connection. And then from there, I transitioned. I did a couple Tough Mudders, which is another obstacle racing company, and then landed on Spartan. And I did a couple over the years. And then the last few years, I've done the season pass. So I've tried to do like 25, 30 races a season.
25 to 30 a year?
Yeah. So I bunch them all into weekends, and I'll do about 3 or 4 per weekend. So it's about 9 or 10 weekends a year. And then as I've built up on that, I started doing the shorter distances. I'd do a couple back to back, and then I was like, okay, now I'm ready to try this ultra thing, 30 miles, 60 obstacles. Let's do it. And then I've transitioned into like the world championship type races, which is the experience of it is just, I don't know, there's nothing else that, like, going to Iceland and running a 24-hour ultra was just
in Iceland.
Yeah. And just to clarify, I'm not an elite racer. I'm not like competitive. I would be a slower runner compared to those guys. But I do it for the personal challenge, and my main competition is myself. So how can I improve? How can I grow? And then the real thing for me is obstacle course racing kind of mirrors life. Like, life is obstacles, right? Obstacles don't block the path. They are the path. And so
say that again.
That's
Kyle.
what
Kyle,
that's
can
what
you say that again? Obstacles are, say that again, please.
Yeah. Obstacles don't block the path. They are the path. Like, in life, we will encounter obstacles, and we got to figure out how to overcome them, how to navigate that. And so for me, obstacle course racing is sort of preparing me to have the mentality to be able to, when I get an obstacle in real life, I know what my depth is, where my limits are, and how to move beyond them. So
yeah. I love that. I love that. So now let's talk about something that I'm always working with in terms of personal development, professional development in my seminars is, a top 3 question is this work-life balance, which I've never experienced work-life balance. What I do is I live out prioritizing what is most important according to time, place, and circumstance. The majority of the time I choose and design, family time, right? I mean, you're not just a professional. You and your wife are high-performing professionals. How do you create that work-life balance? I know how I do with my calendar, but how would you recommend, like, you're doing, these 25, there's only 52 weeks in the year, right? Mm-hmm. Right? It's only 52 weekends in a year, is to have that stuff and still be a like, not just a good worker, but like a high performing worker within your industry. Your wife is the same thing. And then you help our foundation as the director of soccer. You're doing these races. Talk to us about this notion of how you approach work-life balance.
Yeah, I mean, balance in life and in anything is super important. And I try to prioritize that, but I'm not always good at it,
Yeah.
I think we always, all of us will struggle with how to find that balance. And it's like, am I giving too much of myself to one thing? At one point it was soccer. I was pouring everything into soccer, and then something else is suffering, right? And so the challenge is always how do I build up my time, organize things so that I am giving enough to my family. Like, I don't want to just give them enough, right? I want to give them everything. But also I need to give, I need to sort of work on my own mental health, and I have to give to work, and I have to give to that. So how do you manage all of that? And that's always a challenge, is to try to figure that out. And I hope most of the time I'm doing a good job of it. But I do know that I often fail at it. And so it's just, I don't know, reckoning with yourself constantly. How do I make myself a better husband? How do I make myself a better father? How do I be a better employee, et cetera, et cetera?
I love that. And what I coach, teach, and train for everybody out there for this work-life balance, which, again, that is a unicorn for me. I have never met a billionaire or a millionaire where everything is balanced. They just prioritize. They just prioritize things. And one, there's a mission and a vision statement for what they do within their companies. There's a mission and vision statement for them personally, and then also within their family. And then that mission statement now needs to be reflected in the calendar, an annual calendar that's around 12 months to big trips out, 5 years, big goals out. And then you just make sure that the calendar reflects it and that you actually activate and execute on what it is that you put down. There's 14 calendar days that are either off here in the States, starting from like New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, to then you get to President's Day, Valentine's Day, then you go into Mother's Day, Father's Day. And it goes all the way from there to, the fall, summer, 4th of July, all that there's a plan and a design for that, for family time, to what you want to do in terms of these tough murders and the kind of obstacle course racing. So for all the people that are out there, if you would look at what your mission statement is, look at your calendar, design it. And if you're looking at your calendar and you don't feel like you're prioritizing anything in particular, then, or that you make sure that you're prioritizing those things that should be a priority, then you're doing well. But if you do not, what often happens is you get blindsided by neglect and life, right, Kyle, or life or business or what we're doing on the job or extracurricular activities, the passions that we have, the hobbies that we have. Marriage will remind us that we're off balance or you're not prioritizing, depending on how you would do that. Would you add to that at all, Kyle? Any other thoughts as I say that?
I mean, just trying to maintain that open communication and connection, is because sometimes you'll be so focused on doing something that you lose touch with,
That's right,
what your priorities are. And so trying to maintain connection with that and check back in with your spouse, with your kids, I think that'll help a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about this research team that you're a part of, and you don't have to give away any secrets or anything like that, but just in general, talk about the dynamics of that and what you do in terms of leadership and what you do in terms of just all you do for kids and the studies and how that helps everything that goes on in the medical field in terms of impacting positively our society. Talk about that, Kyle, please.
So I work in the pediatric emergency department, which for me is I love being there because, like I said, I was on the path to be a pediatrician. So I'm in a place where I get to work with kids still, and I have a life.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's amazing to be able to work on research projects that I can see how they translate into change in medicine and impact, because medicine is a practice and it's constantly evolving, and it's based on new information and new developments, and we all know in emergency medicine that kids are not little adults. Different physiology, different biological processes, and all of that. So a kid is not going to respond to a drug necessarily in the same way that an adult will.
Yeah.
And also, a lot of our research is focused around how to reduce CT use, because that comes with certain exposures that we don't necessarily want if we don't need to. So if a kid comes in with trauma, a head trauma, do they need a CT scan? There are certain cases where there are certain signs that will tell you, yes, you really need to get a CT scan, because we don't want to miss an injury that could be life-altering or life-threatening. And in other cases, there's a gray area where you can sort of have a conversation with the family maybe to decide whether or not we want to do that. And in other cases, it's a mild trauma and the signs aren't there to suggest that we should do a CT scan. And so a lot of our research is building sort of decision trees for physicians to use in the emergency department to help them decide, when do I need to do a CT scan and when do I not? And we do all kinds of research, mental health, seizures, all kinds across the spectrum in emergency medicine. And that's the part that I really enjoy, and also seeing the impact that it makes on kids. I've been in this position for over a decade now. And we've developed rules and things that are used around the world now, and that to me is amazing. Like, that's changing care for kids, improving care. So
yeah, that's phenomenal. I love what you said, right? Like, humans are both kids and adults, but kids are not little adults in terms of our physiology and biology. I love how you said that, and how the application of medicine and the approach to processes, protocols, and just how it is that we figure out what the symptoms are and diagnose that. Could you touch on that one more time? I think that's such a big awareness. I think that's huge. Can you touch on that a little bit more, and then we'll move on, please, Kyle?
Yeah, so there's oftentimes a new drug will come to market. How to treat, say, bleeding. How do we stop bleeding in a traumatic accident? And so that drug will be approved for use in the adult population. And maybe we see that there's a lot of success with stopping the bleeding in the adult population. But then, does that translate to kids? Is that drug as effective in kids as it is in adults? We don't know. And so sometimes medications or treatment pathways or whatever are sort of just based on sort of anecdotal evidence or the evidence from adult studies. But then the research that we do helps to support that these medications or procedures or whatever are good for kids as well.
That's awesome.
We want to give the right dosing. We want to give the right drugs if it's something different than adults, and et cetera, et cetera. So.
Okay, that is phenomenal, and I love that. And Martha's always talking like that, and the audience knows that my wife is a labor and delivery nurse, and she's always looking at that. And my family actually calls and goes, "Hey, my kid's got a fever." And I love what she says too. She's always like, "Okay, look at the box, look at the box, and read what it says, and then from there you make your decision. If not, just if it's something you think you can't figure out, I mean, go to the doctor, right?" But usually it's all right there. There's just different approaches to kids and adults right on the back of the box of everything out there. Any public announcement for anything like that you'd like to tell adults about? I mean, how important is that, right? Because even me, I'm an adult, and my wife goes, "Just look at the back of the box, babe. What does it say on the back of the box?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, my fault." Right? Anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, well, I mean, that labeling is based again on research specific. So if they've done specific research in children, then they can put that on the box to say, this is the dose you need to give for a child. So yeah, I would say if you're interested in seeing more of the research that we do as an organization, PCARN is 18 hospitals around the country funded by the federal government. So pcarn.org, you can just go and have a look there. And we list all the current projects and past projects that we've done. And for me, it's like I said, very rewarding because I get to work with kids and I get to help improve care. I'm not a physician. I'm not a professional per se, but I get to sort of do the groundwork of going in and talking to families in the emergency department and saying, "Hey, this is a research project that we're doing. Would you like to volunteer to participate to help improve care and hopefully help benefit your child or another child in the future?"
That's right. And Kyle just alluded to it. It is PCARN, PEC as in cat, ARN as in Nancy.org. Correct, Kyle?
Correct. Yeah.
Good. Let's get into the competitions again, because I mean, obviously everybody can really tell how and what you're passionate about in terms of research and what you do professionally. And even though you don't call yourself a professional, according to this guy who's running, 10-minute miles here and there casually, maybe 2-3 times a week when I don't have time to go play basketball or soccer, I consider you like a high level competition guy. You currently have a goal that you've started from the first day of January of 2022 is to run an average of at least 4 miles, which I just jump on there every day and check out what you're doing. You're doing anywhere between really 5+ miles, right? 7 miles some evenings. I see you do that. So, but you want to do an average. Talk about that and why have such a huge goal to run an average of 4 miles a day in 365 days this year. Why?
I don't really know how it happened this year in particular. I remember a couple of years ago, I was like, I'm going to it was a sort of a New Year's resolution. I'm going to do 1,000 miles this year.
Right.
And that was really hard. I found some months I was struggling at the end to meet my monthly goal so that I could stay on target.
Yeah.
And also, I wasn't really enjoying running. I was like, this hurts. I don't like this.
Yeah. Real talk. That's me right there. Every step, Kyle. Every step.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. This year, I'm very motivated, I think, by badges and medals and stuff like that sometimes. So I signed up for all these Strava challenges and so forth. And I don't know. I don't know why I thought it was a good idea to run every day, but I'm sort of locked into that now, just because I want to accomplish it. And also, I'm finding as I'm running every day, I'm actually enjoying it. I don't think I've actually not enjoyed any of my runs so far this year.
Right.
Which is awesome. Yeah.
So in that, let's talk about what day is it of the year is today, being August 10th, and how many miles have you run thus far?
Ooh, I don't actually. Can I do the calculation?
Yeah. Take your time. Take your time. How many miles have you done, do you think?
I can tell you how many miles I've done because I just passed. I think 3 days ago I hit 1,000 miles for the year. So I'm, just over 1,000. I'll end up probably getting a little over 1,500 at the end of the year. So yeah.
Okay, so tell me the number of miles again that you think you've run so far.
Just over 1,000, probably 10-20.
So 1,020, right?
Yeah.
Today is 220. Today is the 221st day of the year. So, hey Siri, what is 1,020 divided by 221? So you're doing 4.61 miles so far every single day of the year.
Oh,
that
man.
is freaking amazing. That is amazing, man. So how does the body feel? I know that, and there's 5 things that I coach, teach, and train, and I focus on with companies and organizations and individuals, right? How a person thinks, how they feel, what they do, how they see things, and how they say things. Translated professionally into now is what's called mindset, emotional intelligence, performance, perspective, and effective communication, right? So and you just said it's like, man, I feel like I enjoy it, right? Mm-hmm. So now you enjoy it because you love these badges, you love sharing it with the community that you run with on the app, right? Like all of that. Yep. So how is your mindset thus far that you're doing basically 4.6 miles every single day for the last 221 days? Talk about that.
Well, I guess it's sort of just I'm committed to it. So having that commitment, I know, sometimes you fall off because you miss a few days, and then it's like, oh, now it's much harder because I have to motivate myself somehow to get back to it. And so I think just having the commitment and staying on track with what I want to do and getting the little rewards in the badges and whatnot right along the way, which aren't that important, but I think that helps keep me motivated and keep the commitment there. And that's what makes it easier to do 1,500 miles than it was to do 1,000 miles.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I teach on this concept, right? I mean, because consistency and discipline, it really can achieve really big things, right? And I teach this concept of 21 days creates a habit, 42 days creates a life. That if you could do something consecutively for 42 days, but for 221 days, how does that even sound like? You didn't even know, right? You didn't even know you've done this 221 days straight. But a dude like me is like, damn, what day of the year is it? How many, you know what I mean? I'm always thinking that way as a success coach, right? So
Yeah.
how does it feel? Let's start physically. How do you feel physically in this the 221 day that you're going to be running or already have run? Have you run already today?
I have not, no.
So how many miles do you think you're going to do today?
Probably 4 or 5. Yeah, probably run around 10 o'clock because it's a little hot.
Yeah. So you do about 5 miles later today. So today you will be your 221st day. And for those listening, we're airing. It's Monday night here on Dash Radio, right? Thank you so much for tuning in on the app. Thank you for tuning in on the Coach V Facebook Live. Everything powered by Island City. You know, it is going to be a Monday night, but we're recording right now on Wednesday at 1 p.m. On August 10th. This will be Kyle's 221st day. Man, if you don't drop a comment in the comment box below, just, I mean, that right there, because Kyle told me this during our free camp we're doing for kids. Maybe a few weeks ago now. Has it been a few weeks already? Maybe 3 weeks, right? And Kyle goes, yeah, coach, you know, I got this thing. I'm trying to run an average of 4 miles every day. I was like, oh, yeah, when you going to start? Oh, I started already. I started on the first day of the year. And then I was like, every day? Right? So let's talk about how you feel. How you feeling physically of 221 days? You've done 220. This will be the 221st day that you're running consecutively an average of 4 miles.
Yeah, I feel great. I mean, I did my first marathon back in 2010, and
okay.
I always thought that I would never do one again because my knees hurt so much for the last few miles, and I pretty much straight legged across the finish line because my knees were just locked up. So I didn't know that what my body was capable of. But part of it is learning, like, how do I build myself up? How do I, because it's not just being on your feet and your knees, it's all the supporting stuff around that. So all the muscles in the knees, your posterior chain, your hips and all of that. So it's all connected, right? And then having the proper form and all of that. So while I've been using these apps, like I've been using the Peloton running app and so forth, I'm getting a lot of instruction, which, helps keep my mind focused and not lost in boredom and all that kind of jazz. But also, I'm learning proper running mechanics and how to build up my body around the knees and the feet so that I can function still and feel great. So yeah, I feel like I'm in the best, almost the best shape. I mean, I still got to work on my eating and that kind of stuff. Right. We love to eat, Coach V.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, and you're a vegetarian, yes? Or am I saying the appropriate term?
Yeah, vegetarian. That's right.
Yeah, you're a vegetarian, right? So talk about that. Talk about the vegetarian diet, not having a protein or meat-based diet. How is that helping you? And how does your energy feel like? Talk about that, Kyle.
Yeah, I've been a vegetarian for 27 years, so I kind of know how to do it to get the right protein and all that kind of stuff. I still like my junk food and my ice cream and all of that. And so that part, every once in a while, I'll use this app to sort of monitor my food intake and all of that. And then I can really dial in the diet and, I still can cheat and whatnot here and there, but at least I know what I'm getting in. When I don't pay attention to that, then, I can do all the running, but I've still got the midsection.
Yeah. Real talk. Yeah. And that's what really surprised me, because I've already wanted to get you on the show for a while. Then COVID hit. Then, we can't be in studio still. So we did the Zoom thing. But two things really got me. One, just me, because I know how hard it is. Even on my radio show of Island City, I'm the only person that consecutively does a show every single week amongst all of the shows on our radio platform, right? So, and I know the struggle of being that consistent for like 52 fresh recorded shows every single year, right? But when you told me that, I was like, 365 days. And then I saw you freaking run around with the junior high kids at our camp, and you were like just running around like you don't run at all, like every day. That just blew my mind, Kyle. I mean, what an amazing feat. So let's do this. Let's talk about so thank you everybody for tuning into the Coach V show here on Island City where the beach meets the street. If you're just tuning in, we have brother Kyle Pimenta, who is a clinical research in, I think this is the first time I've ever gotten this right, Kyle, of the 5 years we've always done these events together. He's a clinical researcher for UC Davis, and he really is always on the cutting edge, just looking at how all the medicines and how all the procedures within the medical field affect kids. Am I right on that finally for the first time?
Yes, sir.
Man,
I'm not the chancellor anymore.
Yeah, I've said, oh yeah, he's the chancellor of UC Davis Medical. Did I say that right? That was like 5 years ago at our banquet. But man, this guy is such an awesome person. I've never heard him talk this much in my life since knowing him. So to get him on the show and to have him just open up like this has really been a new experience for me. But I know the wealth of knowledge that he has to share. Kyle, in that, taking the South African move and immigrating here, only surviving one day in the Thomas High School, going to private school, getting into UC Davis. I mean, UC Davis changed my life. I met Martha while I was going to school there. Martha was at Sac State. You met your wife there, and then you became this high-performing professional. You tried to be this, and then you pivoted and took another direction that you really love. And then you found this competitive aspect of like Kyle against Kyle, right? That's what you do. I mean, it's just you against you, right? I love that. So in that, what would be like a Kyle Pomenta message to the world? Like, here's my message to the world.
There's an acronym I like. It's FAIL. And FAIL stands for first.
First attempt?
First attempt in learning. Sorry, I lost the first.
Yeah, that's okay. That's okay.
First attempt
you're
in
talking
learning.
to a personal development guy. I got these acronyms all over the place. First attempt.
Right.
Yep.
I think that really says a lot about trying and trying again. I when I did obstacle racing for my first 50 races, I could not climb a rope. I could not do the rope climb, which you can do in elementary school, right? I didn't know the technique, and I didn't have the arm strength to do it. Someone showed me the technique on my 50th race, and I did it, and I was like, whoa, like I can do this thing. Now, all this time I didn't think I could do it. So for me, fail stood for 50 attempts in learning. But,
yeah.
But no matter how much you fail, like failure is an opportunity to grow and to learn. You just got to pick yourself up and keep trying, right? And then worlds can open up for you after that.
Oh, that is amazing. I love that. Could you share that acronym one more time? What does the acronym FAIL stand for?
FAIL, first attempt in learning, or 50 attempts in learning.
Yeah, that's me, man. I'm the 50 guy in so many different things. So in that, what are the current professional projects that you're able to share? Just something that you could share publicly. Like, what is something that you're a project that you're working on? And then next is also in the same question. You shared that you're going to be doing some 100-mile races coming up. What's the focal point in both your professional and then your obstacle coursing life, racing life?
Yeah, we have a couple projects that are just starting up at work. One of them is dealing with, well, actually one that's ongoing is dealing with sepsis. How do we properly treat sepsis in kids? And then we have a few others on pulmonary embolism in kids, because those are maybe things we don't see as often in children, or maybe they're just not identified as often. And so we're trying to figure out how do we identify when a child has pulmonary embolism, a clot in their leg that then gets up to the lungs or whatever. So yeah, just a spectrum of stuff. We're also working with the emergency medical services. Ems Research was sort of built onto our network a few years ago, and so there's some research there about how to treat seizures in the field before the child arrives in the emergency department, because we want, when a child has a seizure, or anyone has a seizure, you want that seizure to stop as quickly as possible. And so we're sort of providing some feedback in real time to providers in the field as they're on the way in the ambulance, how to treat children. I haven't tried a 100-mile race yet. I think that, I don't know if that's on the horizon for me, but when I did World's Toughest Mudder last year, I got 50. So that's about as far as I've got so far, 50 miles with a bunch of obstacles built in. I do have this 24-hour ultra world championship at Tahoe coming up. And so that'll be another, I'm going to try for 50 miles there. There's obstacles every round, and we're also at elevation. So that'll be a challenge to see if I can come, because World's Toughest was very flat in Nevada. So we'll see, but I'm going to push the limits, and that's what I love about doing this stuff is I find the limits, and then I work some more and come back and see if I can improve from last time.
Yes. Yeah, I misread that, because he has completed almost 100 OCR events, not you're trying to do 100-mile ultra events. So that's my bad on that. Let's go shout outs, Kyle. Who would you like to shout out here on the show?
I think first, my wife, we talked a little bit about her. So Dr. Lannie Duong, again, she has a real heart for people and for helping those who are disadvantaged and disenfranchised, and so I love that about her. My kids, Ada and Nora, they're 9 and 7. Just started 4th and 2nd grade today, so they're awesome. And again, check out Pecan. I do a lot of fun trivia stuff online with a trivia team of people around the world called Phoenix Rising, and so I have a lot of fun with that in my downtime. But yeah, that's it.
I love that. So here on the Coach V Show, we put everybody through a hot seat. My first hot seat question for Kyle Pimenta is, okay, so if I'm in Sacramento, what are 2 restaurants for vegetarians I have to go to? Elk Grove, Sacramento, Natomas. Like, what's a spot that you go, okay, you gotta go to this spot?
Oh boy, that's a good one. I don't eat out a lot, or if I do, it's Red Robin.
Okay, what do you get at Red Robin? What does a vegetarian get at Red Robin?
They have good veggie burgers.
Yeah.
Any other burgers, you can make a veggie burger pretty much. So I get the Whiskey River barbecue burger there. With a boca patty, and I love it.
No,
that's my guilty pleasure.
Yeah, I like that. Ice cream too, man. I went the other day when you said that. I got on a big waffle cone, right? I just got 2 scoops, and it was huge. It was this pralines and cream from Baskin Robbins. Man, I woke up a pound and a half heavier, and I blamed it on the ice cream. I didn't blame it on the sodas that I drank the day before and any of that, but I love ice cream, so I got those guilty pleasures too. 2 quotes for me. We'll start with the first one on the Coach B hot seat. You've heard me say this quote before as well at my conference here in Elk Grove a year right before COVID is, life is struggle, struggle is life, misery is optional. What comes top of mind when you hear that Coach V quote here on the hot seat?
That totally resonates with me. life is not always easy sailing. We've had some difficult times, especially in the last couple years.
Yeah.
Trying to navigate being stuck at home, kids stuck at home, trying to do their schooling and work. Some days I just find myself like going outside and like literally crying because I didn't know where else to go. But we got through that, and I just like to look back and reflect on things like that and struggles that we go through and see like how that impacted me and how that's made me a better person.
I love that. Thank you for those insights, Kyle. Last quote and the last question on the Coach V hot seat. When Coach V says there's money in the transaction, but the wealth is in the relationships, what comes top of mind for you, Kyle?
Always people first. In any situation, in my work situation, when I'm going in to talk to a family, and I hope that they will enroll into a study, volunteer for a study because I think it can benefit them. But then stepping back and saying, thinking to myself, this person here is in a moment, they're here on a day that might be the worst day of their life. Try to see that person as who they are and what they're going through at the time, and try to relate to that, because that for me is what's most important. Is am I treating each person I encounter as a person, as a rational agent, as all the things that they are, and not as just a means to get somewhere where I want to get, or where the research wants them to get, or whatever. So and the same thing, when we do the soccer camps, it's like, I'm here to teach you some life lessons and whatnot, but also I want to see you not just as a participant in this camp, but as an individual person. And what are your struggles and what do you need, and are you having fun, and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah, phenomenal. I love those insights. So in that, you have the final word. I mean, for a person who does keep to themselves, what has been your experience? And then any final message, the floor is yours.
I just want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. I'm, like I said, I'm not a talker. I don't normally volunteer for this kind of stuff, but I have in the last few years sort of tried to step into roles that challenge me and force me to grow into being a leader, because that stuff doesn't always come naturally to people. Being a speaker, being comfortable being in front of people, being comfortable in social situations, and so sometimes you have to work at it. And I've been fortunate that I've had opportunities to sort of slowly grow into that, whether it's being director of soccer in your camp, or being in leadership positions in PCAR and whatnot. So I tried to step into something like willfully so that I can help myself grow. And so I hope other people can do the same.
Oh, you're definitely leveling up, and really just to see your growth and development. You've always been just a remarkable human being. But for a person who doesn't like to talk, just know from a professional who talks for a living. And I really try to impact how people think, how they feel, what they do, and how they see things, that you are a highly effective communicator, Kyle. And I really appreciate you coming on the show. And that, to everybody who tuned in, thank you for tuning into this episode of the Coach V Show, your Hollywood personal development radio show, broadcast by Dash Radio Studios, Hollywood, California, powered by the Island City Media Group, where the beach meets the streets. And really, for Kyle and I, It is not just merely for the sake of success that we're asking you to consider what it is that we talked about today, but really for the sake that you be your best. In doing so, you realize the best of your abilities and that everything that you work, dream, and pray for can be achieved in the way that you want. This is how your boy Kyle Pimenta and your boy Coach V lives, all about faith and family, grateful for God's amazing grace. We will see you next Modern Motivation Monday here on the Coach V Show from your boy Kyle and your boy Coach V. One love, mad respects, live it. Peace. Choo!